The thank you letters were perfectly arranged on the coffee table. The photos of grateful students covered the backdrop. But when 18-year-old Marcus stood up in the studio audience, everything Patricia Williams thought she'd hidden was about to be exposed on national television. Patricia Williams was supposed to be a hero. For 5 years, she'd been featured in magazines as the angel of education, a successful businesswoman who dedicated her life to providing scholarships for underprivileged students. Her foundation, Dreams Come True Scholarships, claimed to have helped over 200 students attend college. The Ellen DeGeneres Show had invited Patricia to celebrate her work during National Education Week. The segment was designed to honor her generosity and inspire other wealthy Americans to follow her example of giving back to communities in need. Ellen had been particularly excited about this segment. Education was close to her heart, and Patricia's story seemed perfect for the show's mission of highlighting everyday heroes who made extraordinary differences in young people's lives. The research had been impressive. Patricia's website showed dozens of smiling students holding acceptance letters. Her social media accounts featured graduation photos, thank you videos, and heartwarming testimonials from families whose lives had been changed by her generosity. But Ellen's production team hadn't dug deep enough. They'd accepted the polished presentation without investigating the students themselves. They trusted the documentation without verifying the recipients. They believed the story because it was beautiful, not because it was true. Patricia arrived at the studio that morning in a designer suit that cost more than most families' monthly rent. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd spent years perfecting the art of appearing generous while serving only herself. During the pre-interview, Patricia spoke passionately about her mission. "These kids just need someone to believe in them," she told Ellen's producers. "I was fortunate enough to build a successful consulting business, and I felt called to use my resources to change lives." Ellen was charmed by Patricia's apparent humility. Here was a woman who could have spent her wealth on luxury, but chose instead to invest in young people's futures. It was exactly the kind of story Ellen loved to tell. The show began with its usual energy. Ellen's opening monologue, audience warm-up, and the anticipation that came with celebrating someone who dedicated their life to helping others. The studio was filled with excitement about honoring a true philanthropist. When Ellen introduced Patricia, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. Patricia walked onto the stage with a warm smile, waving to the crowd like a beloved celebrity. She settled into the interview chair with practiced grace. "Patricia," Ellen began warmly, "tell us how Dreams Come True scholarships got started." Patricia's eyes seemed to moisten slightly as she began her rehearsed story. 5 years ago, I met a young man named Kevin working at a gas station. Brilliant kid, straight A's, but his family couldn't afford college tuition." She paused for effect, looking directly into the camera. "I paid for his first semester, and when I saw how it transformed not just his life, but his entire family's future, I knew I had to do more." Ellen nodded appreciatively. "And now you've helped how many students?" "Over 200 young people have received full scholarships through our foundation," Patricia replied with obvious pride. "We've sent kids to Harvard, Stanford, local community colleges, wherever their dreams lead them." The audience applauded again. Ellen was beaming. This was exactly the kind of segment that made her show special, celebrating people who used their success to lift others up. "We have some surprise guests today," Ellen announced. "Some of the students whose lives you've changed wanted to be here to thank you personally." Patricia's smile didn't waver, but something flickered behind her eyes. A momentary tension that the cameras caught but the audience missed. The first student was introduced as Jennifer, a sophomore at UCLA studying pre-med. She was a young actress Patricia had hired to play the role, coached with enough details to make her story believable for a brief television appearance. Jennifer delivered her lines perfectly. "Miss Williams changed my entire life. Without her scholarship, I'd never have been able to pursue my dream of becoming a doctor. She didn't just give me money, she gave me hope." Ellen was visibly moved. Patricia basked in the praise, playing the role of humble philanthropist with practiced ease. The audience was enchanted by this beautiful story of generosity and gratitude. But then something unscripted happened. Marcus Thompson, an 18-year-old sitting in the third row, stood up. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, his voice cutting through the applause. "I need to say something." Ellen looked toward the audience, surprised by the interruption. Audience members weren't supposed to speak during tapings. Security began moving in Marcus's direction. "Miss Williams," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "You know who I am, don't you?" Patricia's face went pale. The confident smile that had carried her through countless interviews began to crack. "I'm sorry, I don't. My name is Marcus Thompson," he said, walking toward the stage despite security's attempts to stop him. "You've been using my photo on your website for 3 years." Ellen looked confused. "I'm sorry, what's happening here?" Marcus reached the edge of the stage. "That woman has been collecting donations in my name, claiming she gave me a scholarship to study engineering at Georgia Tech. But I've never received a penny from her." The studio fell completely silent. Patricia gripped the arms of her chair. Ellen looked between Marcus and Patricia, trying to process what she was hearing. "Ma'am, I need to ask you to return to your seat," security said to Marcus, but Ellen held up her hand. "Wait," Ellen said. "Marcus, what are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying that woman is a fraud," Marcus replied, his voice carrying clearly through the studio's microphones. "She's been using my photo, my story, my grades to collect money from people who think they're helping students like me." Ellen turned to Patricia. "Is this true?" Patricia's composed facade was crumbling. "I don't know who this young man is. He must be confused." "I'm not confused," Marcus interrupted. "I have your website printed out right here. My photo, my high school transcript, my acceptance letter, all used without my permission to raise money you never gave me." Ellen stood up slowly. In 15 years of hosting, she'd never found herself in the middle of what appeared to be a criminal accusation happening live on television. "Marcus," Ellen said carefully, "how do you know about this?" "My guidance counselor saw your website," Marcus explained. "She showed me because she thought it was beautiful that someone had helped me. Except no one helped me. I'm working 3 jobs to pay for community college because I can't afford Georgia Tech." The audience was frozen in shock. This wasn't the heartwarming celebration they'd expected. This was an accusation of fraud unfolding in real time. Ellen looked at Patricia, whose professional composure had completely vanished. "Patricia, I need you to explain what's happening here." "This is a misunderstanding," Patricia stammered. "There are so many students, sometimes the documentation gets mixed up." "There's no mix-up," Marcus said firmly. "You never helped me. And I bet you never helped most of the other kids whose photos you're using." Ellen made a decision that went against every television instinct. "Stop the cameras," she announced. "Everyone stop." But the cameras kept rolling. The audience remained frozen, and Marcus kept talking. "I found 12 other students whose photos she's using," Marcus continued. "None of us ever received scholarships. She's been collecting donations and keeping the money." Ellen felt the weight of realization hitting her. "Patricia, is this true?" Patricia looked around the studio like a trapped animal. The confident philanthropist had disappeared, replaced by someone who'd been cornered after years of deception. "I can explain," Patricia said weakly. "Then explain," Ellen said, her voice harder than anyone in the audience had ever heard it. Patricia looked at the floor. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "It started small, just one donation that I needed to borrow from temporarily." "Borrow?" Ellen's voice rose slightly. "I was going to pay it back," Patricia continued. "But then more donations came in, and I needed the money for my business, and it just became a lie," Ellen finished. "It became a massive lie. The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. 300 people were witnessing a complete fraud being exposed on live television." Marcus stepped closer to the stage. "She's been living in a mansion, driving luxury cars, taking expensive vacations, all with money people thought was going to help kids like me." Ellen looked at Jennifer, the supposed UCLA student. "And you? Are you really a scholarship recipient? Jennifer's face flushed red. I'm an actress. She hired me to play the part. Ellen closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing the full scope of what was happening. When she opened them, her expression had changed completely. Patricia, Ellen said, her voice now cold and authoritative, how much money have you stolen? It's not stolen, Patricia protested weakly. I always intended. How much? Ellen demanded. Patricia's answer came in a whisper. About $400,000 over 5 years. The audience gasped audibly. Ellen's face showed a level of anger that her viewers had never seen. $400,000 that people donated to help students, Ellen said. Money that parents, teachers, small business owners gave because they believed in your mission. Patricia began to cry, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone who'd been caught and was facing consequences for the first time. Ellen turned to Marcus. How did you find the other students? Social media, Marcus replied. I started reaching out to the kids, whose photos were on her website. Most of them had never heard of Dreams Come True scholarships. Ellen shook her head in disbelief. So not only did you steal money intended for education, you violated these students' privacy by using their images without permission. I never meant for it to go this far, Patricia said. But it did go this far, Ellen replied. It went this far because you made a choice every single day for 5 years to continue lying to people who trusted you. Ellen walked to the edge of the stage where Marcus was standing. Marcus, I want you to know something. This show, this platform, we're going to make this right. She turned back to Patricia. You need to leave, now, and you need to contact a lawyer, because what you've admitted to on national television is criminal fraud. Security moved in, not to escort Marcus away, but to remove Patricia from the stage. As she was led away, Patricia turned back one last time. Ellen, I really did want to help students, she said. No, you didn't, Ellen replied. You wanted to help yourself. And you destroyed the trust that real philanthropists work years to build. After Patricia was removed, Ellen addressed the audience directly. I want to apologize to everyone watching. We trusted someone who didn't deserve trust. We promoted someone who was stealing from the very people she claimed to help. Ellen looked at Marcus. But we're not just going to expose the problem. We're going to fix it. Over the next hour, something unprecedented happened. Ellen stopped the regular taping schedule and turned her show into a real-time fundraising event for legitimate scholarships. She called college admissions offices live on air. She connected with verified scholarship foundations. She reached out to her network of wealthy friends and business contacts. By the end of that extended show, Ellen had raised enough money to provide real scholarships for Marcus and 15 other students whose photos Patricia had stolen. Not just partial scholarships, full rides to the colleges of their choice. The episode that aired 3 weeks later became one of the most watched in Ellen's show history. Not because of the scandal, but because of what happened after the scandal was exposed. Marcus received a full scholarship to Georgia Tech, where he studied engineering as he'd always dreamed. But more importantly, he became an advocate for education fraud prevention, helping other students recognize and report similar scams. Patricia Williams was arrested 2 weeks after the show aired. The FBI investigation revealed that her fraud extended far beyond what she'd admitted on television. She eventually pleaded guilty to mail fraud, wire fraud, and tax evasion, receiving a 5-year prison sentence. The real scholarship students, whose photos she'd stolen, became a close-knit group, supporting each other through college and beyond. They called themselves Ellen's Angels, not because Ellen had discovered them, but because she'd given them a platform to tell their truth. Ellen learned something important that day about the responsibility that comes with her platform. She implemented new verification procedures for all charitable segments, ensuring that every foundation, every philanthropist, every cause featured on her show underwent thorough investigation. But perhaps the most important change was in how Ellen approached stories that seemed too good to be true. She learned that real heroes don't usually come with perfect websites and professional photo shoots. Real heroes are often like Marcus, ordinary people doing extraordinary things without recognition or reward. The thank you letters Patricia had displayed that day were revealed to be fake, written by her assistant. The photos of grateful students were stolen from social media accounts and graduation announcements. But the letters Ellen received after the show were real, from parents who'd been considering donating to Patricia's fake foundation, from students who'd been inspired by Marcus's courage, from teachers who'd learned to be more vigilant about protecting their students' information. Marcus kept one thing from that day: the printout of Patricia's website that had featured his photo, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that truth has a way of surfacing, even when it's been buried under years of lies. Ellen kept something too, a photo of Marcus standing at the edge of her stage, speaking truth to power, refusing to let injustice hide behind a smile and a designer suit. Because sometimes the most important moments in television happen when someone breaks the script and demands honesty. Sometimes the best episodes are the ones where entertainment stops and justice begins. And sometimes a young man's courage to speak up can expose a fraud, protect future victims, and remind everyone watching that real heroes don't need websites or marketing campaigns. They just need the strength to tell the truth.